It is time. Baseball is back, ready to begin spring training in Arizona. The defending world champion Los Angeles Dodgers were the first of 29 games in this Cactus League schedule as they travel to Mesa to take on the Oakland A's. And every one of these 29 games will be live right here on Sportsnet LA. With Orel Hershiser, I'm Joe Davis. Glad you're with us. Hope you're having a great Sunday so far. You know, anytime you get into spring training with any game, first game especially, you're wondering, who are we actually going to see today? Are we going to see some names that we recognize? And at the top of the order, the answer today is yes. Mookie Betts hitting leadoff. Corey Seager hitting second.
Mookie Betts now some 70 games in a Dodger uniform, including the World Series. Not an MVP in the World Series, but a second-placed MVP player for the Dodgers behind Freddie Freeman. Great to have him back and for a long, long time to come. But speaking of MVPs, the NLCS MVP, the World Series MVP, 2018, the Tommy John surgery, 19 slicing the ball to left for a lot of doubles, but last year at full strength and full capacity.
When those guys settled into the lineup last year at 1-2, the Dodgers went 40-13 in the regular season and in the postseason combined. They averaged better than 6 runs per game when those guys hit 1-2. We've got first pitch of Game 1 of spring training coming up on Sportsnet LA. You normally associate with spring training baseball. Just 60 degrees for first pitch, 14-mile-per-hour winds, and chilly as the sun goes down as the day goes on in Arizona. We want to give a very special welcome to the newest member of our crew who is actually in Arizona. Hello to Kirsten Watson.
Thank you so much, Joe. I appreciate that. You said it. It is a beautiful but a bit of a windy day here, but we have about 2,000 fans, lots of Dodger blue. That's about 20% of capacity for this stadium. That's what's been approved around for the Cactus League and the Grapefruit League. But lots of excitement. The fans are kind of in pod seating or out in socially distanced areas, but everyone is here and excited to see their World Series champions.
All right, Kirsten, I remember, during the World Series and actually NLCS when they finally let fans in last season, it was very small capacity in Texas that they had, but it felt like 100,000 people were there. When you go from nobody in the stands during the regular season, a very eerie feel for those games, to having just a little something for the postseason, it felt huge. And it's awesome to open up this 21 season, albeit spring training, with some folks in the seats.
The players went through a second adjustment. They had the adjustment of no fans and playing kind of in a bubble, and only the tier 1 people would be around them, so they weren't used to the daily life of the big leagues that way. But then another adjustment back to when the fans were allowed back in. And even if it's 2,000 or 5,000 or whatever the amount is, the players said it upped the nerves, it upped the excitement and the adrenaline.
What do you say we do lineups? You want to see the lineup?
I want to see the lineup of the world champion Dodgers.
All right, let's take a look at a baseball lineup here for Game 1 that Dave Roberts sends out there. He's got Mookie Betts leading it off and starting in right field, and Corey Seager hitting second as the shortstop. Austin Barnes catches and bats third. Cleanup man is A.J. Pollock. He's in left field today with Beatty at first, Rios at third. Matt Davidson in his first year in a Dodger uniform hit seventh in DHs. Zach McKinstry, a name you're going to hear a lot about this spring. One of the candidates to take over a role similar to what Kike Hernandez had, is a very versatile player. Starting at second today, and then in center field, DJ Peters. Number 1 offense in baseball last year. Faces off with Dalton Jeffries, who makes his spring debut for Oakland. 25 years old, former first-round pick. Made his debut last year, didn't go well. He pitched just 1 game and gave up 5 runs in 2 innings.
Number 1 draft pick that had Tommy John surgery back in 2017. Fully recovered from that now. He'll top out around 95, but in that first big league outing that you mentioned, Joe, he was pitching at 95. So a guy that relies on command probably needs to calm the nerves and just make his pitches and not really have velocity as his top priority.
Outcomes don't matter. Stats don't matter during spring training. They say it a million times over the course of spring training, but it's still, I would imagine, for Dalton Jeffries and all these guys, as they get to play in a game for the first time in a long time, a special day.
Yeah, when you have had 1 big league outing and it was a rough one, and then the first 2 hitters you're going to face that are actual big leaguers again, a couple of MVP pedigrees in Mookie Betts and Corey Seager, yeah, he's looking to get some good results and gain some confidence.
It might be windy, but Fit for a postcard. Light blue skies above as Betts climbs in. And the Dodgers coming off of their first World Championship in 32 years. Open spring training in Mesa today. And off we go with Betts taking strike one from Jeffries. I'm sure you saw last week, Mookie had his first visit with the media. They asked him, how would you grade your first year with the Dodgers? And he said, serviceable, I'd say.
Humbly saying serviceable. I think you guard your own spirit as a player sometimes when you get into the media circles and all of a sudden you know you're going to be living with those quotes for a long time. And so I think some guys really downgrade MVP type performances so that they don't get unmotivated to go after it again.
Swings and misses here, chasing a breaking pitch and a strikeout for Jeffries to begin things.
Slurvy type breaking ball there from Jeffries that got Betts the chase. Attacked him with two fastballs, one away, one up, and then finished him with the breaking ball.
That's the first out of the day, and up comes Corey Seager. Well, if Betts was the star of the regular season and obviously did great things in the postseason as well, nobody was better in the postseason than this man. Corey Seager won the NLCS MVP and the World Series MVP. As he so often does, goes after the first pitch. Baseball's back, isn't it? Corey Seager hacking to the first pitch, caught it third, and there are two away.
It's almost like for Corey, even with the winner off, the celebration of the World Championship and his MVPs, I see a baseball, I'm going to hit it.
One of the most aggressive guys in the league, not wasting any time there. 2 up and 2 down, and it brings up Austin Barnes.
Corey heard we're playing 7 innings, so he's trying to get it over a little quicker.
Yeah, so that's new this year. Teams can decide the length of the game, 5 to 7 innings over the first couple weeks here. And then you get to the back half of spring training, and they can decide in the 7 to 9 inning range.
And for pitchers, I like the fact that you can flip an inning if the pitcher has thrown 20 pitches if you want. Trying to protect everybody's health.
Barnes slashes one foul, and it's 1-1.
People are like, what are they going to do at 20 pitches if they want? Yeah, bases loaded, 1 out, base loaded, no out, base loaded, 2 out. Change sides.
Yeah. It's like when the video game's not going well, you just hit the reset button on your big brother, right?
Yeah. Or you can bring in a reliever at that 20, and then the pitcher that you took out of the game can start the next inning.
2-1 on Barnes. I like it, though. I mean, spring training is not about winning or losing the games. It's about getting guys ready for the regular season, and most importantly, keeping everybody healthy. On a 2-1 pitch, Barnes swings and misses, 2-2.
Interesting cutter right there. I mean, cutter slash slider. It was the firmness of a cutter and the break of a hard slider. This is a ridiculous pitch.
So we saw the loopier breaking ball to get Betts, and a little bit tighter there from Dalton Jeffries, who looks to work a 1-2-3 first. Barnes slaps it in the ground to second. Tony Kemp will throw him out, and the inning is over. Dodgers down in order. Mike Kickham gets ready to take the ball. Open spring training for the Dodgers after this. This one, Dodgers and A's in the Cactus League opener. Let's take a look at the lineup for longtime manager Bob Melvin. Ramon Laureano is so good defensively, leads things off and plays center field today. Elvis Andrus, weird to see him in a uniform that is not a Texas Rangers uniform. He bats second. Chad Pinder's at third. Mark Canha is the cleanup man and left fielder, with Mitch Moreland DHing out of the 5 spot. Austin Allen catches, then Buddy Reed at right, Seth Brown at first, and the second baseman, Tony Kemp. They face off with a guy in Mike Kickham, who's 32 years old, out of Springfield, Missouri. Made his big league debut back in 2013. Pitched for the Giants in 13 and 14, handful of games. Didn't pitch in the majors again until last year. 5 years exclusively in the minors. Made it back to Boston last year. Did some good things, enough where the Dodgers were attracted to him and brought him in as a non-roster invitee. Pours in strike one.
Fastball, cutter, curveball. You're going to see a lot of breaking balls. Maybe not in the first spring training game, but when he gets into his regular season form, you're going to see the curveball and the cutter an awful lot.
softly bounced left side. At third, it's Edwin Rios with a running throw. And at first, Beatty makes the catch for out number 1.
Rios will give a tip of the hat to Beatty over there to rescue him a little bit.
And so here is Andrews, who was acquired in a trade for Chris Davis during the offseason. Spent 12 years in a Rangers uniform. Was the next big thing. Was one of the great young players in the game early on in his career. And then injuries started to interrupt things. They've been an issue the last couple of years. When the Rangers starting to turn things around and trying to get a little bit younger, they made the deal. And here he is as the shortstop for the A's. Doesn't seem like that long ago that he was the young kid coming up in Texas.
This is my 8th year as a broadcaster for the Dodgers. I'm like, Elvis Andrus is getting older?
Yeah.
It's like, whoa.
He's 32 years of age now. Yeah, the A's won the West last year, and the roster this season is going to look quite a bit different. They had 10 free agents coming off of that team and only bring back 2 of them. Swings and fouls it into the glove, 1-2.
Nice cutter right there. Ball had some real actual cutter movement. That was not as big as a slider and not as hard as a fastball, but that was late and sharp.
Here he comes to the 1-2 pitch. Ooh, try to get that outside corner, just barely missed.
One of the more frustrating things for a pitcher is that borderline pitch that gets called a ball, because it takes so much talent to get that ball at that velocity, that movement, that close to the glove and not get it.
So you want to yell at Ted Barrett. Do you know how hard that is to do, Ted? Not worth something?
Back in my day, that would be a strike because you got it exactly where you wanted it. I know it was off the plate 3 inches, but the talent it took, that's a strike. And then the one that's on the plate on the opposite side was a ball.
So you missed your spot.
Yeah, the umpire would say, well, you didn't want to go there.
Right.
You're not getting that.
You don't deserve anything.
Yeah.
No suit for you. A walk in the first base runner of the game comes in the form of Elvis Andrews.
In the mental block of getting what you would perceive as squeezed on the mound, you can't let that get into the next few pitches.
Then as your career goes on, don't you start to get reputation strikes too?
Yeah, it seems like that is. I don't know if that's just the editorial that we add to the facts that we see in front of us, and we just go, oh, that's a good storyline. We'll just go with that.
There's Chad Pinder with 1 on and 1 out. Yeah, there's strike 1. Yeah, you lived it, though. Did you see more reputation strikes as you got deeper into your career? Did you get a bunch of strikes in '89?
I would never say that. I would say Pete Rose and Frank Thomas and Mike Schmidt and the guys that had unbelievable careers. I'm like, how can you not call that a strike on them?
Right. Well, 0-2. Well, Kickham says he never gave up hope. In 2014, final game in a Giants uniform, he got chased against the Dodgers on a Zach Greinke home run. And, of course, you leave the game there and you think, okay, I'll get my next shot soon. That was 2014. He didn't get back to the majors until last year. He spent some time with an independent team, the Kansas City T-Bones, bounced around to 4 different affiliated organizations. He says thanks to his support from his parents and then all the core things that his parents built in him meant that he never gave up hope. He always thought that he would get back, and he did. It was a long road back, but he found his way there.
I'm having flashes of Rich Hill.
Yeah.
That road back through independent ball.
Another 0-2. Did he go? No swing, ball 1. Yeah, Rich Hill was with the Long Island Ducks.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't it some
Atlantic League?
11 different teams or something? I can't remember. You
It was,
going over his resume.
all the teams.
Ridiculous.
Rich is now down in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
Signed a contract with the Rays.
Great addition to any roster. Not only the ability on the field, but the person in the locker room and with the team. Boy.
I just thought of this. You made the Rich Hill comparison with Kickham. They have the parallel that they found their way back with the Red Sox. Late season opportunity with the Red Sox.
curveball combination can really be a great combination for a left-hander, because you can project him not only as a starter if they have enough command to get righties and lefties out, but you can project them as a reliever. So a couple of paths for him to stick in the big leagues. Right now with the Dodgers, the way the rotation is looking, the rotation plus, when you look at the 7 or 8 candidates, I would think that Kickham is looking at being stretched out as a starter, I would think, maybe for backup there, maybe AAA. But then also you'd be able to fall back into a bullpen piece.
And that's kind of where they're leaning, is to extend him. And he's shown versatility throughout his career. So they know that he's the kind of guy who they can put in one role and then shift to another, because not everybody can thrive like that, going back and forth, not knowing exactly what their role is. But especially in a year like this, coming off a 60-game season, the pitcher's health and the ability to be versatile is going to be extra important. He barely misses again, and the count goes full.
Both corners not open. Walk to Andrus, and then all of a sudden, that was from a pitch away that he didn't get rung up. Now that one into a righty doesn't get called. First game, how about a little something for the effort?
I know. Swing and a miss for strike 3. Throw from Barnes. Got him. And a strike him out, throw him out to finish off the first. So Pinder down on strikes, and then Barnes throws Andrus out, allowing Kickham to face the minimum here in the first inning. To the second we go in Arizona. No score. Baseball on Sportsnet LA is brought to you by the SoCal BMW Centers. BMW, the ultimate driving machine. So many great shots from Texas in the World Series, and all the emotion that came pouring out with the Dodgers finally capturing that World Championship since 1988. Back in Arizona, new pitcher already. James Kaprielian comes into the game for Oakland. Former UCLA Bruin, who was a first-round pick in 2015 of the Yankees, and finally made it to the majors with a couple games last year.
You know, we had mentioned last inning about the rules there. You can change after 20 pitches if you would decide to do that. You could mutually agree upon maybe we're only going to play a 5-inning game or a 7-inning game here early in camp. The reason they're doing that is because the minor league camp is not open, so you don't have the depth of talent in all the facilities to keep filling in as you move through. And if you get into a game or some innings that create some length, you always want to have that safety valve of those minor leaguers to be able to come in and cover. Well, that depth doesn't exist.
A.J. Pollock leads off this second for the Dodgers, takes strike 1 from Kaprielian. And now strike 2. And minor league camp is set to begin once major league camp finishes. Just has to do with social distancing and not want to have too many people in the facility. But it certainly does change the game planning and the way that you structure things for the games throughout spring training. So many of those games, the back half, it's nothing but minor leaguers. 1 and 2.
And I think people just crave baseball, and yeah, they know the big leaguers are going to be out early after 2, 3, 4 innings in the early games if you're buying tickets, and they know the big leaguers are going to play longer later in the spring, maybe 7 to 9 innings. You get to see your heroes. But a lot of people just love to see baseball, whether it's a AAA or a AA player on the field, somebody making their first pitch or at bat against a current big leaguer. It's quite a story to see.
You know what I love? I love to hear. I love to close my eyes and hear the pop of the mitt, the crack of the bat, the vendors, the fans, even if it's just 20% capacity, all the sounds of the game.
You're listening, and I was watching that hot dog.
Breaking ball a little bit low, and it's 2 and 2.
I'll move to another sense.
Yeah, that's not a sense you want to hear. You don't want to hear the hot dog. No.
I want to hear the onions crunching.
Yeah.
I want to wipe the mustard off the corner of my mouth.
Kill his mic. Pop up. Seth Brown is the first baseman. He's got it for out number 1. So Pollock retired, and it brings up Matt Beatty. It's such a fantastic debut in 2019. Last year, not quite the same. He only played in 21 games. He didn't play in a regular season game after September 6th. And had a few opportunities during the postseason, but faded from the role that he was in 2019. And will attempt to recapture a more significant role. Strike one.
You know, one of the big league tools is the ability to have the mental endurance to get through a 162 game season. It's one of the separators that we'll see guys that can play for a month, but after that, they just tail off. They don't have the mental discipline or strength. I think Matt Beaty is that kind of guy. And so when you say last year was kind of a flat tire for him, I think more of, but we didn't get to see one of his tools, which is his ability to adjust, his ability to grind, his ability to really stretch it out. Just kind of like when we saw Mookie Betts didn't do well against left-handers last year. Well, he didn't have time to really show his dominance against them.
Yeah, there's so many things that through the 60 games, whether it's a number like you talked about against lefties or just the eye test, Beaty not being as big a part of things, you figure would have evened out with another 100 games. You'll never know. And it's hard also to know what to trust when you look at the 60 game numbers. You got to take something from them. You got to learn something from what was produced. But what can you really trust when you're evaluating guys and looking ahead?
The spring training is usually trust the track record.
Beaty yanks one right side, off of the glove of a sliding attempt from Pinder and through.
And I think Matt Beaty has established a kind of a track record of what we've seen. It's not a long track record, but it's one where I could take what he did last year and say, you know what, he's getting a mulligan for sure. I believe that with big leaguers when they come into camp and all of a sudden they get off to a bad spring is really flat. Management, they'll get removed from the roster. They don't, now he's trade bait. No, it's trust the track record. These guys really understand how to get themselves in position every day, and you've got to give them the reps.
Dodgers have their first base runner of the game. Here's Edwin Rios taken in the dirt. Austin Allen smothers it, but Beaty will advance to second.
We are now getting used to Dodgers being very aggressive on the base path. That is not much of a ball in the dirt, probably going to be considered a wild pitch. But boy, reading the trajectory of that pitch as it's in the air and getting that good secondary lead, and as the moment it touched the dirt, Beaty was off.
Yeah, the scoring position for Rios, who in 60 career big league games has hit a home run once every 10 at-bats. So, you know, that's obviously a tiny sample. And this is just a fun note. It's not like a real note, but that's the #1 home run per at-bat ratio in Major League history.
Is it like Alonso and McGuire and Babe Ruth?
Yes. It's Mark McGuire, Pete Alonso, which is really impressive because he's played a couple seasons now, and then Babe Ruth.
Oh, my God.
All chasing Eddie Rios.
Exactly.
2-1.
A bigger, stronger Eddie Rios.
Somehow.
Yeah.
There was a ton of room for that, but he says change the routine, a little bit more stability work, and even with that, you normally don't associate stability work with adding strength and muscle, but he did add even a little bit more.
Well, depending on which fence you're going over, you only have to hit it 1 foot over the fence. So I think what he really is building that strength for is a more accurate lever system, not a more powerful lever system. If he can just get more contact, it's going to be loud.
On a 3-1 pitch, yanks a line drive down the line, base hit for Rios. Reed over to grab it, Beatty's headed for the plate, throw is there, he's out. Buddy Reed with an outfield assist. Rios takes second, great throw by Reed.
It's a nice line drive hit. They've got him played to pull. This is usually down the line for a double, but now with all the data, they've got Rios to pull. So Beaty with a good jump at second, but this is not just your typical ball down the line, score easy. He gets thrown out because of the great positioning and accurate arm of Reed.
Good to see Dino Ebel in midseason form working all the way to home plate there, by the way. Dino is almost to the dirt cutout around home. So it remains scoreless. Rios is second with 2 gone for one of the new Dodgers, Matt Davidson. Some time in the major leagues with mostly the White Sox, but he debuted with Arizona a few years back. Had a couple seasons of at least 20 home runs in Chicago, and then spent last year in Cincinnati. On an 0-1, Davidson loads up and pops it up. Right field, Buddy Reed, who was responsible for keeping this game scoreless. The outfield assist, cutting down Beatty at home. And we go to the bottom of the second, 0-0.
Talk from Joe and Earl about hot dogs and food. Your favorite Dodger Stadium eats are available at home through Dodgers home plates. From Dodger dogs to garlic fries and nacho helmets, get a taste of the ballpark experience delivered on demand. Search for Dodgers home plates on Postmates and order your stadium favorites for the next game now.
Or would you sign off on her taking your promo reads?
It's a little tough, especially when it's one about food.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
The pulled pork pierogi hoagie was flashing through.
Here we go to the bottom of the second. I might kick him after scoreless first. Delivers ball 1. Mark Canha leading things off for Oakland. Then Moreland and Allen here in the second. One and 1.
If Kirsten walks the stands this year at all and visits any of the concession stands, we need to make sure that the leftovers after the hit come to the booth.
Let's make it happen. Canha rifles the ground ball to short. A couple of bounces. Seager's got it. Calmly throws him out. 1 away. Well, we're talking a little bit, Oral, about going from the 60-game season to 162. And that's going to be a big discussion in spring training as the year gets going. It'll probably die down, that discussion, a little bit early. But as we get into the middle part of the summer, when you get past the 60-game mark, that discussion's going to come up again.
Yeah, there's the general discussion and kind of the overlay of what the culture is going to be, but I think it's really going to come down to individual workloads, individual how they feel. There's always going to be some flavoring from the training department, from the front office on workload and what's going on, but the players and each of their individual pain tolerances, endurance tolerances, is going to be very interesting. A lot of conversations, I think. And when you've got the player with the attitude of a bull in a china shop compared to the guy that's like, whatever you say, I'll do, those conversations are going to change in tone.
There's the pitching coach, Mark Pryor. 2-0 to Mitch Moreland. Spins in there for a strike, and it's 2-1. So you've got, one way of looking at it is these pitchers are going to be fresh. Nobody in baseball threw even 100 innings last year. But what kind of toll does it take going from roughly 10 starts in a full season back to making around 30? And then there's the other question of what about all these minor league pitchers who didn't have a season at all and who a lot of times teams like the Dodgers rely on to get cycled back in, or not back in, but become part of the big league equation at some point. 3-1. Strike 2 on Moreland.
And different for the Dodgers because they're planning on playing a very long season past the regular season. So you want the peak performance and the peak health to be at the end of the year. Whereas another organization who's like thinking, oh, we got a chance to be 500, maybe be a wild card, they want to get off to a hot start. And they want to, if they do get off to a hot start, they want to continue to use all the pieces. And all of a sudden, those guys might hit a wall in August. The dog days might bite them.
Peter Gammons wrote a really good article on The Athletic and quoted Andrew Friedman quite a bit in it. He's talking about some of the challenges in this 162-game season following the 60-game season. Moreland slashes one to left off the end of the bat. It'll dunk in for a base hit in front of Pollock. Andrew said something along the lines of his biggest hope is that 5 years from now, we're not looking back on the decisions we made about pitchers' health and about players' health this year and regretting it. We're not looking that going from 60 to 162 is a moment that really hurt the sport.